Now for the past bit of time, I have been on trips where I did not have access to my equipment and or the internet to make videos for you guys. So for the past 2 weeks, you have not seen any legitimate content on the channel, and that's why, in case you didn't watch my last video where I mentioned that. But a lot of stuff has happened since the last time I've been on this channel. We've had WWDC with some Apple news, with a little bit of hardware, mostly software. E3, Nintendo was there with some stuff, too much to talk about right now, and then there was the Pokemon Sword and Shield Direct. Overall, just a lot of stuff going on for me to talk about, and so I thought I would start off by not doing anything that had to do with any of that and do something completely random instead. I recently received this from an anonymous source. It is the world's simplest motor, so I thought it'd be fun to build it today. You can tell by the packaging this is probably picked up at like a checkout counter at Dollar General or something. It's easy to build and educational. Requires one D-cell battery sold separately, and that's what I have right here. I don't even know what the shelf life is for this. It didn't have any labeling on the package. I don't know how long I've had that sitting there, because D batteries is kind of an obscure kind of battery no one really keeps around, so I didn't even know we had it. I don't know if it's within its shelf life or not. We'll see when we hook it up. And on the back, here are the directions and a brief description of how it works. The box is a little beat up. Oh, and here's who made it. Yini Educational Products. There's an address for them if you care to know, and I guess we can't rip the box too bad here because the directions are on the back of the cardboard, but we'll figure this out. Now here comes your world's simplest motor unboxing experience here. We'll have to be careful we don't rip the outside of the package, so I'm just going to try and remove this plastic part from the backing without... Oh, hi dog, welcome. You have to go away. Yeah. Hey, no, I said go away. I've removed the plastic, not very elegantly at all, but whatever. So here is your main module container, and those are stuck in there. What the heck? So here are your copper pieces. This must have been in the shelf for a while, because the copper is starting to corrode a little bit. But there are your two copper pieces, plastic holder, permanent magnet, and electrical coil. I'm sure some of you have probably seen this before. I know we built one of these in middle school, but hopefully now that I have a little bit more of a physics and electricity knowledge than I did in middle school, I'll have a better understanding of how this works. So I don't think I damaged anything on the back here, and no I didn't, so we can go ahead and start building this. So each step on these instructions seems to have multiple steps involved. So for instance, step 1, unwrap the wire, straighten out the wire, leave 2 inches straight, wrap the wire around the battery to form a coil. Unwrap a small amount from the second end so you have about 2 inches of wire sticking out on the other side. That's like 3 steps, not 1, but anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started here. This is such a tangled mess of wire. It's going to be fun to try and untangle this. Oh, Lord. So actually straightening this wire has proven very difficult. You can see some larger bends there that won't straighten out, and there's some very tight beds here that are just stuck into the wire. I think this is about as good as I can do, and hopefully it should still work properly. So next we have to wrap this wire around this battery to actually form the coil and wrap that off at both ends. So yes, I did use a ruler to measure out the ends and make sure they were long enough, but now we gotta get the edge of a desk here, and basically we want to use one of these to scrape off the enamel coating on the top half, because that is a strong insulator and we want it to be able to conduct electricity on half of these wires. I just think this is an interesting way to do it, instead to use these pieces, because, you know, usually you would use sandpaper on a project like this to sand off the enamel, but we are doing this instead and trying not to scratch up this desk in the process. So I've now scraped most of the enamel off of one side. I'm not sure if it's quite enough. I can scrape off some more later if necessary, but we're going to go ahead and move on here. So now we're going to slide these metal supports up through the bottom of the plastic structure. These bumps on the outside are what are going to hold the battery into place once we're onto that part. So we're going to go and slide these up, and the other one also up, and there you go, and the coil will rest in those slots. So I've officially stopped looking at the instructions at this point. I kind of know what I'm doing. So we're just going to slide this permanent magnet into the slot, and battery is going to go in there as well. I'm not sure it really matters which direction the battery goes in, and it appears to be making contact, so that'll allow electricity to flow, and I think we're ready to go with this whole motor thing. So I am not exactly sure if I stripped off enough copper on the edges for this to actually be able to allow electricity to flow through the coil and create that magnetic field, and these things are always super finicky anyway, so we'll just see what exactly happens there when we do this. And it looks like I am going to need to make some adjustments, but that was kind of expected. So I tinkered with this coil for quite some time, aka 2 or 3 minutes. It didn't take as long as I thought. I did manage to get this thing going, but not anymore. And it is very fidgety. There we go, it fell off. Let's try again. You gotta get it perfectly centered, then you can see it starts to accelerate and then continues spinning. Now what tends to happen eventually is that this will get too far off to one side and fall off, but as you can see, we did successfully get this thing to spin. This little motor here will now theoretically spin forever, given that the battery does not die and that it doesn't fall off or anything like that. So what's happening to make this work is that the battery is supplying a flow of electrons or electricity up this pin and into the copper wire. Now anytime electricity flows through a wire, it generates a magnetic field. This is usually negligible, but since there are so many copper wire wraps around this coil, that amplifies the magnetic field and makes it noticeable. So when this electromagnetic field exists, it pushes away from the magnet that is on the bottom, the permanent magnet. That's always there, it always has a magnetic field. However, since we've only stripped the enamel off of half of this wire, electricity is only flowing through the wire for half the rotation. So while it's repelling for half the rotation, then it falls for the rest and continues that momentum. If you wish to have a more complicated explanation than that, you'll have to ask somebody that knows a heck of a lot more about physics than I do. And this electromagnetic coil and permanent magnet setup is how pretty much all electric motors work. Now, of course, they're more complicated systems than this. This probably isn't able to do any kind of work, probably because it only has a 1.5 volt battery in the bottom, so there's not much potential energy to be distributed there anyway, but just because of how fragile this setup is, it's not going to be able to do anything other than just spin and look cool. I mean, seriously, look at that, it's cool. I was genuinely surprised by the amount of magnetic force being generated by this wire coil, since there's only 1.5 volts flowing through it. Sometimes if I stop it with my finger, it is able to start itself up again perfectly fine. It's very interesting. I noticed sometimes when I put the coil down, it was already ready to start spinning immediately. Now, as I mentioned before, it is very difficult to get this wire in the perfect condition necessary to get it to actually spin. It's more difficult on some kits than others. This one wasn't too bad, but here's some tips on how you can get this to work, basically with any project similar to this. You want to make sure that the actual stripped ends of the wire are lined up with each other and visible at the same time as you rotate. Otherwise, there won't ever be any electric charge actually flowing all the way through here, and therefore no electromagnetic field to generate the spinning motion. Another thing you can check is making sure the wires are in the exact center of the coil coming out to the sides, or else you'll have the coil too long and it'll hit the magnet part on the bottom as it spins around, and that'll stop its motion. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See, look, it's spinning. Well, let me know what you guys thought about this little electric motor project. Let me know in the comments if you've ever done anything like this before, or if you know some extra tips that could help other people out, or maybe you are a physics expert and can tell us in more detail exactly how this works and how this is implemented in other motors, anything like that. I always like to read through and respond to all you guys' comments. It's quite awesome actually when you actually do it, and that's about it. Leave a like on this video if you want to see more little random obscure videos like this. I think it's nice to shake things up with the channel a little bit, especially since the name is Variety Entertainment. That implies variety. And I guess I'll see you guys in another video later. Bye bye.